Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to
Yes, sir.
this case
Good evening, sir.
discussion on a swelling in the region of the parotid and the neck. You will see that this is an acute swelling because these discussions are exam oriented. One can reasonably assume that acute cases are not kept in the exam. It will be very uncomfortable for the patient. But swellings are swellings. And as you all know, discussions take many forms and shapes. They use the case as a starting point, and the discussion may go on to anything with the way the examiner puts it to you. So you will get an experience of that, because he may go on to the anatomy of the area, he may go on to the physiology of the organ concerned. And if you have a cystic swelling, the examiner may well say, yeah, I agree, this is cystic. Suppose I put it to you that it is a hard swelling. What do you think it is? And then the discussion takes a completely different direction. So this is the way exams go, and I think it's good that it goes, because it not only checks the width of one's knowledge, you can also go deep into a particular aspect of the disease and examine the depth of knowledge in a given case as well. So here we go. Saurav, the floor is yours. Please start with the case discussion.
Thank you, sir. Good evening to everyone. Today, my clinical case discussion. A 45-year-old male residing in Bangalore, an engineer by profession, came with a chief complaint of a swelling below the ear since 1 year, with sudden increase in size over the past 1 week, along with pain and fever. The patient was relatively asymptomatic 1 year ago, following which he noticed a small swelling below his right ear. The swelling was insidious in onset, initially small in size and painless, but it suddenly increased in size over the past 1 week to extend up to the neck. Associated with pain over the swelling, which was continuous and dull aching in nature and was aggravated on chewing of food. It was also associated with high-grade fever since 1 week. There was no history of any other swelling on the opposite side of the face. There was no history of recent upper respiratory tract infection or increase in size of the swelling while chewing of food. There is no history of purulent discharge inside the mouth. There is no history of features suggestive of facial palsy. Patient was a recently diagnosed diabetic. There was no history of tuberculosis in the past. There is no history of dryness of eyes or mouth. There is no history of surgery in the same region. A personal history, there is no history of altered sleep or altered bowel or bladder habits. He is a known smoker and non-alcoholic. His oral hygiene is good. Family history is non-contributory. So I'll summarize my history by saying that a 45-year-old male diabetic with complaints of a swelling below the ear since 1 year and a sudden increase in size to extend up to the neck for 1 week, along with pain and fever. There is no history suggestive of purulent discharge inside the mouth or features of facial nerve palsy.
All right. Can I bring Pavan in? Is this Pavan or plastic surgeon or Pavan or PG?
Sir, I think that is
Pavan, sir. Pavan first year, sir.
PG. All right. Pavan.
Yes, sir.
He gave you a history of a swelling in the parotid area and the neck. Is there anything more that you would like to know from the history, what he has not asked so far?
Sir, any history of discharge?
Discharge from where?
From the swelling.
All right, not very important. He would have reported it straight away. Yeah. The swelling was there for a year. Would you or would you not like to know what was done about it for 1 year? Did the patient sit on it? Was it investigated?
No, sir. It was not investigated. Because it was asymptomatic, he didn't bother too much about it. And it was small in size initially, sir.
A specific mention has to be made. And when you say small, it's always good to know some kind of size for the swelling, the size of a marble, size of whatever, okay? Or if he's smart enough, if he tells you a dimension, but some size must be given so that you know, everybody knows that nothing else was done. Back to you, Pawan. He said there are no features of facial palsy. What symptoms would a patient have with facial palsy?
Sir, deviation of angle of the mouth, sir,
Okay,
and drooling of saliva,
good.
and sir, loss of frowning, sir, over the facial forehead.
Okay, that's a sign that you would elicit. But symptoms, something to do with the eyes. If the branch to the eye, you know, eye area is affected, what happens? When they can't close their eyelids, right?
Sir, lag of thalmasis, sir, difficulty in closing eyelids.
That's one. And then because it's exposed, they expect them to have a degree of
exposure
conjunctivitis.
keratitis, sir.
Not the
Exposure.
degree of keratitis, but at least they will have
Dry eyes.
Dryness.
dryness. Why dry? No, because there is a lack of closure. They actually have tears flowing out. Why
Yes,
should
sir.
there be any dryness unless it is some kind of a Sjogren's or something that affects both the parotid and the lacrimal gland? So there will be proper production of tears, but it will not stay within the palpebra, as they say, and so it will probably come out if they are unable to close the eye properly. So those are the signs or symptoms of facial nerve palsy. Would you have, you know, you have described the swelling in the parotid region. Would you want to ask for anything else well away from the parotid? You told me about the other side, which is fine. Anything else?
Sir, any other swelling that you noticed in the neck,
Okay.
probably, or in the scalp region, say if
Thinking
I'm
of a lymph node, so you think
Yes,
something from
yes,
there
sir.
down, coming down.
Yes, sir. So
Okay.
if I'm suspecting a lymphadenopathy, I'll be thinking of any the draining areas.
Mhm.
So I'll ask him that.
All right.
And any other swelling that you notice anywhere else in the body, if groin, any lymph nodes, lymphadenopathy. I'm talking in terms of generalized lymphadenopathy.
Okay, lymphoreticular disorder. Even
Yes,
more
sir.
specific if it's the parotid. Some other organ that can be parallelly affected, particularly if there is bilateral involvement. I know this is unilateral.
Sir,
Testis.
It's an acute case, remember?
sir, a mumps can infect his
Testis, sir.
Yes,
Testis,
testis
sir.
has to be checked. Okay, that is
Yes, sir.
something you have to do. Ravi, is there anything else you should be saying or asking?
No, sir, I think he's probably covered it fairly comprehensively.
All right. Shivram?
That's all, I think. Yeah.
All right. Nishant?
Sir, nothing to add, sir. Only thing
So
is
please go to next slide.
dull aching pain. I had a doubt, sir.
Yes, sir. I specifically asked him what is the type of pain. He said it was continuous. So I asked him whether it is severe, that is disturbing his sleep. So he said, no, it is not disturbing his sleep, but it is there for a week, which is painful.
All right. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right.
Sir, Ajit here, sir.
Okay, go on.
Sir, tooth infection should we ask, sir? Because sometimes
Yes.
infection can.
Correct, Ajit. Sir, I had already mentioned, probably
Yeah.
I didn't type it here. So
Yeah.
I told that his oral hygiene was good, sir.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yes, sir.
Okay, please proceed to the examination.
Sir, after obtaining consent, patient was examined in sitting position in a well-lit room. Patient was alert, comfortable, and cooperative. Is obese with a weight of 98 kg and BMI of 33.2. Karnofsky performance score was 90. He was afebrile on while I was examining him. The pulse was 110 beats per minute. BP was 140/80, measured in the right arm in sitting position. There was no pallor, cyanosis, icterus, or generalized lymphadenopathy. On regional examination, a swelling of size 10 into 8 centimeters in front and below the right ears was seen, which was extending from the level of the ear lobule to the neck above 4 centimeters above the clavicle, and from 2 centimeter posterior to the ear lobule to 4 centimeters in front. The swelling had displaced the ear lobule upwards. The retromandibular groove was obliterated, and there was overlying erythema of the skin. No other swelling was noted on the opposite side of the neck, and there was no features of facial nerve palsy. On palpation, the inspectory findings were confirmed. There was the temperature of the overlying skin was raised with mild tenderness on palpation. On palpation, a swelling of size 10 and 8 centimeters in the right parotid region, which was firm in consistency with a lobulated surface with well-defined margins. The fixity to the skin and mobility, I could not examine on him because he was saying that he was feeling pain. So I could not very well elicit whether there is skin fixity and mobility. In the oral examination, the mouth opening was slightly reduced. There was halitosis, and on examination, there was a string of pus discharge that was seen from the opening of the parotid duct. There was fullness noted in the posterior fascial pillar, and bidigital examination was not done due to pain. The facial nerve examination was normal. The contralateral parotid was not palpable. There was no cervical lymphadenopathy, and systemic examination was within normal limits. So a summary of the case is a 45-year-old male diabetic with complaints of a swelling below the ear since 1 year with sudden increase in size to extend up to the neck for 1 week along with pain and fever. On examination, there is a 10 into 8 centimeter swelling over the region of the right parotid, extending into the neck with local rise of temperature and tenderness over the swelling. Mouth opening was reduced with pus discharge from the right parotid duct opening. There was no features of facial nerve involvement or cervical lymphadenopathy.
Okay, go on to give your
my
diagnosis.
My provisional diagnosis is inflammation of the parotid gland, right-sided parotitis.
Mm-hmm.
And I would also like to keep a differential of suppurative lymphadenitis in the submandibular region, sir.
All right.
And,
Okay. Lymphoma.
Yes.
You think they're lymphoreticular disorder. We'll come back to
Yes.
this in a little detail later.
yes, sir.
I made a note when you're giving the history. You said that the patient is non-alcoholic.
Yes.
Please say he does not take alcohol.
Okay,
There's
sir.
a big difference between an alcoholic and a person who takes alcohol. Okay, there is a
Okay, sir.
definition for that. The minimum that you have to take to be labeled an alcoholic. I forget that definition. Any of you remember that? Look
Sir,
it up
if
in
he
the book.
drinks more than the examiner.
No. That is an impossible ask generally. No, but please look it up. There is I don't know. I think it's 100 ml of.
No, I think it is unit. They measure it
How
in
many units? Yeah.
I think
so
more than 40 units a week. More than
something like
40
that.
units a
Kindly
week
look
is
it up
considered.
but don't call them alcoholics. You
No,
say
sir. Okay, sir.
whether he consumes alcohol or doesn't consume alcohol. Going back to
Saurav.
the go on.
Saurav, I had a question. You said it was mildly tender, but
Yes,
then
sir.
you offered the excuse of the swelling being tender for you to conduct a proper bidigital or whatever examination.
Yeah.
So those two are contradictory.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Which is right?
Sir, while examining him superficially, sir, I was he was complaining of pain. So while trying to lift the skin of the swelling and trying to mobilize the swelling, he started complaining of too much pain. So I backed out from that time, sir.
Yeah. Please be careful. You will get caught out on this. Okay.
Okay, sir.
You
Yes,
can't
sir.
say mildly tender and then say I can't do a bidigital. I can't pinch the skin.
Yes, sir.
To be safe, when you are not able to examine, just say the swelling was very tender, and so I did
Okay,
not
sir.
give him discomfort.
Okay, sir.
All right. Coming
sir.
back to Indraja, he said there were no features of facial nerve involvement. What
Yes,
are the
sir.
things that you do to confirm that?
So we have to ask the patient to blow, sir,
Okay.
and we
You
have
will
to
not
ask
be able to bloat up the mouth, right? Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
All right.
And we have to ask the patient to clench his teeth, sir.
All right.
open.
And what happens
And-
when he does that?
It deviation of mouth, sir.
Yeah. Which way does it go?
Opposite
Paralyzed side or the opposite side?
Opposite side.
What else would you do?
And
When the eye
we
is
have to
involved?
yes, sir. we have to ask the patient to close his eyes, sir,
Mhm.
Tightly.
Okay. And you
Yes,
not
sir.
be
He
able to
was-
open it.
Yes, sir.
And then another sign was already mentioned.
We have to ask the
Forehead.
patient to forehead, sir.
Look up and there is no furrowing of the
Yes.
forehead. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So these are the common signs that you do. Nishant, anything else to be done?
Sir, loss of nasolabial fold, sir.
Yes. Loss of nasolabial fold is another one. Okay.
Sir, and that while testing the buccinator, we will ask the patient to fill up the mouth and hold it while we press it from the sides and test the tone of the buccinator muscles.
That's right. That's what I said. When you say you will not be able to bloat up the mouth.
Yes, sir.
Of the
Close the
cheeks.
lip and fill the thing.
Yes, sir.
And then of course,
Whistling. Ask them to whistle.
Whistling,
is
sir.
another one.
Whistling,
Whistling is
yes,
another
sir.
one. The only
And eyes
limitation,
big.
yeah, the only limitation of whistling is some normal people may not know how to whistle. All right, that's one
sir.
thing.
Like,
So,
like me. Like
oh,
me.
okay, all right. You also mentioned about a lobulated swelling. What is the difference between a lobulated and a bossylated swelling? It's a bit of a nitpicking, but it is something that you have to.
Sir,
Look into.
the surface will be the size of the
Exactly, the size is
size.
important.
Yes,
If
sir.
the size is big, it is bossylated.
Bossylated.
If the
Yes.
size is small and you call it a lobulated swelling. Welcome, Ram Krishna. You have your hand up, please.
Yeah. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
When
Good
we
evening,
were
sir.
PTs, we used
Yeah.
to, examiner used to ask lemon test. Is it still done?
I don't know what it is.
We had to put a drop of lemon into the mouth and look at the parotid opening.
Yes, sir.
A gush of saliva comes there.
Okay.
If it is blocked, you won't get it.
Yeah.
And if it is pus, sometimes which is not seen on examination, that will be
Okay.
revealed there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, they will feel pain.
Right.
Oh, that will be almost pathognomonic of
Yeah. So you're
salivary gland
stimulating the salivary secretion and seeing
Yeah.
if the duct is blocked or not. And yeah, it will be painful.
Sir, can we
Go on.
Sir, can we try the milking of the duct in that case, like while we can press the duct and see if any pus is coming out?
It is again tender, man.
It is
Yes, sir.
tender.
Sir,
In this
so
case,
in general, I'm saying, sir. Yeah.
yeah. So if I ask you to milk the duct
Yes, sir.
for the parotid duct, where would you do it?
Sir, I will just on anterior to it's saying the region of the buccal cavity, sir, just in between the lip and the teeth, in that region, sir, I will just anterior to the masseter muscle, I will just press it, sir. And that is the region of the duct opening, sir. So I will
It's
press
a
that.
huge
Sir.
area. Where would you do it? What is the, in other words, I'm asking you, what is the surface marking of the parotid duct?
Sir, a straight line connecting from the lower end of the ear lobule to the angle of the mouth, sir.
Okay, and what part of this line is the parotid duct? I thought it was the tragus to the angle of the mouth. Nishant, can you come in on that? It's not
Yes,
the
sir.
lobule.
Yes, sir. It's an imaginary line drawn from the tragus to the
Tragus
angle of the mouth,
and the
and the
middle
middle
third of that
one-third.
line. The
Middle
middle third
one-third
of
is
that
the
line is the
duct.
parotid duct. Okay, and that is where you have to press. And when you press, there's another thing you have to do, because something underneath it must be contracted. I gave you the answer.
Yes, sir. So they have to clench the teeth.
Yeah.
While
Then you palpate it. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
when
sir.
you palpate it, that will be for stones and perhaps strictures or whatever,
Okay, sir.
or inconsistencies in the size or the structure of the duct. But in the same line, without clenching the teeth, you can press down and look on the inside to see if there's any discharge of pus or not. But in your case, it wasn't an issue because you noticed pus even spontaneously. You reported
sir.
that, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Came out on that. Okay. So somebody had asked for, okay, Nishant has given a definition that granular is less than 0.5 centimeters, nodular is 0.5 to 2, and bossylated is more than 2 centimeters. All right, you got that, guys? Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
I didn't know these dimensions. Surface anatomy we have cleared. Yeah. Okay. So your diagnosis, Ajit, do you want
Yes, sir.
to contest this, or would you agree with this?
No, sir, I would agree, sir, because there is frank pus
Huh.
and the swelling is tender. There is erythema
Mhm.
over this swelling. That's why I
All
would
right.
like
So
to
what
go
is
with
your
this.
idea of what a paratitis is?
Sir, infection of the parotid glands.
All right. When does it usually occur?
Sir, in patient with who are prolonged starvation, sir,
Mhm.
patient who are in sepsis,
Yes.
they are on RT feeding or
Right.
peg feeding.
Dry
or
mouth,
Then, yeah, dry mouth
immunocompromised.
patient. Yeah, immunocompromised patients.
Yes.
Mm.
Okay.
Sir, on
Generally, yeah.
anticholinergic drugs. sir.
Yes, which is
Yes.
drying of the mouth.
Yes,
If
sir.
there is one
Chronic
thing,
bedridden.
would you, yeah, correct. Would you expect paratitis in an otherwise normal parotid or in a previously deceased parotid? The list that you gave, do you normally
sir.
expect these parotids to be deceased?
No, sir.
No,
No.
that is my main consideration here.
Yes, sir.
This patient had a swelling there.
Yes, sir.
It was not investigated. It was there for a year.
Yes,
So what
sir.
is it
Yes,
more
sir.
likely to be?
Saurav,
Sir,
you will not
sir,
explain why you found pus from the parotid duct. You will not get pus from the
Yes, sir.
sides in parotitis per se, unless it is a very suppurative
Sir,
parotitis. More
sir,
likely to
sir,
be parotid abscess.
parotid abscess. Yes, sir. Parotid abscess. Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, but there is an underlying disease. There is a swelling there which was smaller, but definitely it was there. So what is it more likely to be? Would you expect a neoplastic swelling to be infected like this and giving you pus and all that?
Sir, a long-standing swelling can suddenly increase in size,
No, I have a
which may.
specific question. Would you expect
sir.
see that swelling that you described for a year can either be benign or
Malignant.
neoplastic? In neoplastic,
Yes,
it could be non-neoplastic or neoplastic. In neoplastic, it could be benign or malignant. So I'm
Yes, sir.
asking, would you expect a neoplastic swelling to get infected like this? There is no doubt that it's an infection. Tender swelling, redness on the skin, pus coming out of the parotid. So would you expect a neoplastic swelling to be like that?
I'm not sure, sir.
No, is the answer. Okay,
No, what
you
is
don't
it
have to have any
likely to
doubts
be?
about it. So what
Okay,
is it? It's a non-neoplastic swelling. So what is it likely to be then? Existing disease. You shouldn't hesitate this much at this stage. It's either a sialectasis or a pre-existing cyst with a communication with the drainage system.
Then okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Shivram, you want to add anything?
No, that's what, because it is something which has got worse because already there was a swelling.
Yeah.
So it is whether it's a recurrent parotitis which has gone into separation now.
Yeah.
Chronic parotitis suddenly going into abscess is little unlikely.
Yes, sir.
Cyst getting infected is another.
Yeah. So it's either a sialectasis.
Sialadenitis may be mild form of it with small stone, which is now subsequently become infected. That could also be a possibility.
That's also possible. All right. So
sir.
yes, I would agree that suppurative lymphadenitis can give you a swelling of that size, but why would you expect pus from the parotid duct? Why would you get pus from the parotid duct in a lymphoma?
No, sir.
So when you put up a differential diagnosis,
Yes,
you
sir.
should be careful about what you say. And your pus from the parotid duct is a very definitive kind of sign. And so
Yes,
I
sir.
would not entertain lymphadenitis as a possibility. Okay. The lymphadenitis can only be secondary to a
Secondary.
parotitis or a parotid abscess. So
Yes,
instead of saying right-sided parotitis, I would have said it's a parotid abscess. And the only point against it being an abscess is that usually the pain is excruciating. It disturbs
sir.
their sleep. Okay, it is
Yes,
that
sir.
kind of a thing. Why does that happen in a parotid abscess?
Sir, actually, the parotid is enclosed in the fascia, sir.
Correct.
Investing
Tight
there.
fascia, correct.
Yes, sir. So it doesn't have space to expand,
There's
and
a lot
that
of
stretch causes
pressure.
pain.
Correct,
Yes, sir.
and that's why it happens. So I would call it, my first diagnosis would be a right-sided parotid abscess, probably secondary to an infected cyst or an underlying silectasis. Okay.
sir.
Or the second thing is it could be a straightforward parotitis, is a diabetic, that is quite possible, going on to an abscess with secondary involvement of inflammatory involvement of the nodes in the neck, because it is a
Yes.
kind of a lobulated swelling. It extends right down to,
Yes, sir.
nearly the clavicle, 4 centimeters above the clavicle, you said. And
Yes,
so
sir.
I think that is one of the possibilities.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ravi, anything to add?
No, sir, I think if you say parotitis, you have to qualify that, but I would put parotid abscess as the first diagnosis.
All right.
Okay,
Ramakrishna?
sir.
Sir, I have a doubt, sir.
Hello.
Yeah.
Good evening, sir.
Ramakrishna first and then Ajit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go on, Ramakrishna. Yeah.
Sir, could it be a long-standing pleomorphic adenoma?
Hmm.
And in that, now because he is diabetic and other predisposing causes, he might have developed an infection and producing this recent increase in size, pain, all those things.
Remote possibility, I think, because, this is a fairly inclusive swelling. As I say, it's not that if it was a pleomorphic adenoma, that would stand out separately and the rest of the gland would probably be infected or with an abscess. And it's unlikely that it is a neoplasm with surrounding inflammation, because neoplasm itself, to my knowledge, doesn't get infected.
No, that itself
Yeah.
will not get infected, sir.
Yeah.
But infection, because he said surface is bacillated, no? Something like that.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Nodule or varying consistency, bacillated swelling.
Yeah.
That description fairly fits into pleomorphic adenoma. The only thing is because it is painful and there is pus. So this could be because of the infection of a part of the parotid gland
All right.
and producing pain and all the other symptoms.
All right. What do you think, Shivram?
More likely abscess.
Yeah.
Neoplasm getting abscess is a little unlikely. Yeah.
Ravi?
I have not heard of many infective complications of pre-existing.
No, he's Ramakrishna is saying two conditions, concurrent conditions.
Examiners usually frown upon making two different diagnoses,
Okay.
which rightly so, I think.
All right.
There is always a possibility, but I think we should discount that, because I think in exams, I don't think examiners will accept two different diagnoses.
Yeah.
Sir, what you were considering was a cyst, no?
Yes.
Will a parotid cyst produce such a huge swelling, what he described, starting from ear lobule going?
When it gets infected, yes.
No, even before that he had a swelling there, no?
It's a small swelling.
That was a small swelling, sir, initially, sir. So it suddenly increased in size over the past 1 week.
Swelling usually, even in parotid abscess also,
Hmm.
you don't get so huge swelling because it will be severely painful and very unlikely, because he will be having high degree fever with chills, rigors.
He had
all
fever.
those
He is having
symptoms.
fever,
He had
sir.
fever. Yeah.
Very high degree.
Only thing is he didn't have very severe pain.
Severe
Nishan,
pain.
you're welcome to unmute and talk. Yeah, Nishan
Sir.
says, well, how can it be an abscess when it's firm in consistency? Why is it not fluctuant? That is typical of parotid abscess. It won't be fluctuant because of the very
And that is
tight fascia around it. All right, so it won't be fluctuant. That's why it's not soft. It's firm. And the only thing against it, as I said, is that the pain is not excruciating.
Yes, sir.
So
Sir.
go on.
With regards to the border, sir,
Yeah.
the way he described it, it is bacillated or with well-defined margins, well-defined borders.
Yeah.
Usually in an abscess, the borders are ill-defined because of the surrounding infection, induration and all. We'll not be able to define it like a proper swelling.
Proper swelling. Okay.
So can we put a diagnosis of parotid abscess just based on the fact that we saw pus in the...
Yeah, I mean, see, the description of the borders has to be taken with a pinch of salt. Okay, the patient is tender. What he is trying to say, I interpreted it that the borders are fairly well defined. It's not that it's sort of very diffuse, but if you see the picture, it is a diffuse swelling. There is redness you can see, but when you palpate it, he knows that this is probably the extent of the swelling, and there is a demarcation between a swollen and a non-swollen area. That is good enough. An abscess with surrounding inflammation can be described like this. It is not very similar to the limits of a neoplastic swelling, if that's what you are comparing it to.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you investigate this patient, sir?
Sir,
Sir,
Ajit, yes.
Sorry, Ajit, you had a question.
Sir, Bailey says that sialectasis definition is aseptic dilatation. So if there is pus, can we give sialectasis as a differential, sir?
Underlying sialectasis with infection. You understand? Sialectasis is, it is true that just by itself is not an infected condition, but when you have sialectasis, it is more prone to infection. There is no doubt about it.
Okay, sir.
All right. So infected
Yes.
parotid, perhaps a parotid abscess with an underlying cyst or sialectasis.
Okay, sir.
Okay. It was sialectasis before it got infected, to make it even more clear. Can parotid tumor be associated with sialectasis? Yeah, the two can exist, but not very common. A swelling, which is a neoplastic swelling, that's what I presume you know when you say tumor, can occur with an underlying sialectasis, because a lot of people have sialectasis which is asymptomatic. That's a well-known condition. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Go on. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So, sir, so first I will like to confirm my diagnosis, sir. For this case. So in that case, I will want to do USG of the region of the parotid, sir.
Okay.
Apart from that, I would also want to do a routine hematological investigation that will show me raised total counts and ESR.
Okay.
And the ultrasonography of the parotid will be able to also determine whether there is an underlying abscess.
Okay.
And the extent of the abscess, whether there is associated lymphadenitis also, it will be able to say, sir.
All right. Ajit, can ultrasound give you any other information other than an abscess and lymphadenitis?
Neck nodes also, sir. Other
He
whole neck.
mentioned neck nodes. Okay.
Sorry.
It can do a lot of things here, ultrasound.
Dimensions of the swelling.
Sorry?
Dimensions.
Yeah. It gives you the exact dimension of the swelling, extent,
Vascularity.
whether it is a diffuse swelling, whether it is, you know, just edematous.
Solid or cystic.
Yes. And
Yes, sir.
whether there is an abscess. It can tell you about possible stones, if any, further down in the duct or in the gland itself.
Yes, sir.
All right. And it can also tell you whether the swelling or the edema or whatever, the pathology involves the deep lobe also or not. Okay. It can tell you
Yes, sir.
all these points. Now, are you happy with the ultrasound of the ipsilateral or the affected side, or you want something else?
So in most cases, I will be it's an ultrasound of the region will be, if it mentions as parotid abscess, I'll be okay with it, sir.
All right.
Yes.
Any other views? Hari?
We'll stick to that one side, sir, if it is in parotid region.
Yeah. Please note that for anything in the parotid, a bilateral examination is important. Okay. For the main reason that you will get a comparison for the two sides. Ultrasound particularly has its limitations. Even though I listed 4 or 5 things that you can get, the sensitivity and the specificity is limited. And so it's always good to compare it to the same ultrasound. It's a high frequency ultrasound to the same examination on the opposite side. It is a requirement, okay, for that. But
Yes.
it is also important that you do not go completely by the ultrasound itself. It's always safer in the parotid region to get either a CT or an MRI.
Okay. Sir.
Okay. So what would the CT or an MRI tell you?
The CT scan will mention the solid and cystic areas, the extent of the swelling,
Mhm.
whether it's the origin is from the parotid or it is from somewhere else and around the parotid, extending around the parotid.
Okay.
That the other glands are also involved in the sense that submandibular gland is it involved or not?
Okay.
Whether the neck nodes are involved or not.
Okay.
And the deep low we can say with more certainty, sir.
Yeah, exactly. That was what I was looking for. What the
Yes.
ultrasound tells you about the deep lobe and its indentation on the pharynx,
Pharynx.
okay, is limited. Whereas CT will be very clear about what the extent of that swelling is, whether it is inflammatory or neoplastic, and how much it indents or how much of the deep lobe is involved is much better delineated by the CT scan. Is MRI required if the CT scan gives you all the information, or is there something in the MRI that will be better than the CT?
So probably if the patient had presented with any facial nerve palsies, signs of facial nerve palsy, I would have wanted to get an MRI that will delineate the nerve tracks better. But otherwise, when the patient is not having any signs of facial palsy, I won't want it, sir.
Okay, it's a bit controversial about the role of CT and MRI in parotid. I'll tell you my understanding, and I'll invite the seniors to add on to that. Please note, by and large, MRI defines soft tissues well, better than the CT. CT is also important, it's good, but if there is any bony involvement in the area, I'm not talking about this particular case, in general, if there is something that erodes bone, for example, neoplastic process, okay, or even osteomyelitic process, then when there is bony involvement, CT defines that better. So if you're looking at a purely soft tissue disease, as in this case, I think MRI would be as good or slightly better than the CT. Comments from Ravi? Yeah,
Totally
Nishant
agree,
has asked that question. Yeah.
Totally agree with you, sir. Soft tissue delineation is much better with MR.
Right.
So, and I think so is a lymph node involvement, I think.
Yeah.
But in this case, lymph node involvement may not be that important. But in terms of if you're looking at an assessment of a parotid neoplasm,
yeah,
lymph node involvement is also better delineated by MR.
All right, Shivaram.
Oh, I was little worried about ultrasound. In a painful swelling, will the ultrasonologist will be able to do a good ultrasound and give the report?
Yeah.
Also, patient will be very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That's a valid point. Yeah. Yeah. Ramakrishna.
Yes, sir. I agree, sir. MRI is a better investigation in this case compared to CT.
Nishant, you had actually asked that question parallelly. Yeah.
Sir,
same thing, sir.
So one question, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, so obviously in the real clinical scenario, we will, as Shivram sir said, that it will be painful as a USG to better to go for a CT or MRI.
Right.
But while answering in the exam, sir, would it be safe to say that I will directly go for an MRI or say USG first, sir?
My view is that you should say USG, provided the patient can tolerate that examination.
Yes,
you give a rider. Nishant.
So that's it, sir. If there are any bony involvement or lymph node enlargement, I'll go for a CT. If not, preferably an MRI.
Yeah. In this case, Saurav's doubt is, can I straight away ask for an MRI or a CT without saying ultrasound in the examination?
Difficult to answer, sir.
Difficult to answer. Go for ultrasound. Okay, because generally your examiners want it in that particular order. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Show us any other comments from the students, questions, seniors?
Ajit here, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, for parotid fistula, what should we do, sir? CT fistulogram or MRI fistulogram? Silogram.
if both can be done, I think it depends on whether it is purely a fistula or whether there is an associated swelling elsewhere. If there is a swelling, go for an MRI. If there is no swelling, it's purely a fistula, you do a fistulogram, and for that CT is probably a better test. Because the contrast, I believe, is much better with it when you do a fistulogram with dye in the duct.
Okay, sir.
Okay, yeah. Investigations, Saurav.
With this, we can add viral markers also, no, sir? I mean, investigation.
Unilateral parotid swelling, pus coming out, viral parotitis is almost ruled out. Okay,
Yes.
right.
So one more doubt, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, here in investigation, should we ask RT-PCR for COVID, or it will be like very over smartness from I don't know. I don't know.
Why, yeah, I mean, you can always say in these days, we don't operate if there is COVID, and you can ask for it. Yeah. In your exam, when you go in the next few weeks or months, yes, because when you're operating, you have to have COVID negativity. For that, you can ask. Yeah, nothing wrong. It's not over smartness. See, I always feel that you should say what you do and justify that method. Justify that. You're not saying it's a COVID parotitis, okay, or a COVID parotid abscess, but you will need COVID if you're operating on him.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, go on.
So, on investigations, I just mentioned the important ones. His total counts were raised 18,500, and the USG of the neck region was done. It was showing a right upper in the right upper neck in the submandibular region shows a poorly defined large heterogeneous lesion with internal hypoechoic areas measuring 6 into 4 centimeters arising from the right parotid gland, which was and diffuse overlying subcutaneous edema. There was few adjacent enlarged lymph nodes.
Yeah.
So they had done a CT scan
Just
of the neck.
Go back, Saurav.
Yes, sir.
See,
Yes, sir.
he's a diabetic.
Yes, sir.
So you have to mention his sugar. And diabetics are with particularly sepsis prone to renal failure. So you got to mention the creatinine.
Okay, sir.
All right. And you're going to operate on him. So
Yes,
when you
sir.
report,
Yes,
kindly
sir.
mention the hemoglobin also. It's very likely that you're going to operate on him.
Yes,
If
sir.
you are, you need to know the hemoglobin. So all those things have to be reported in the exam.
Pus culture, sir. Pus culture.
Did you get a culture done?
No, sir. They had not
The
done any
first-
pus culture.
Okay. Okay. That is
Yes, sir.
something that one can entertain. I didn't push on it because the mouth is full of organisms. And so it's very difficult to get a pus culture. If you want a culture, it is much better to aspirate the pus percutaneously rather than from the mouth and take it out. And if it is an abscess, you're going to drain it and you can take the culture. You can start an empirical antibiotic and get the culture when you drain it. Okay. But
Yes, sir.
would you agree with this ultrasound report, which is to me neither here nor there? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Does he really say that this is an abscess?
Sir, he doesn't say mention. So one second, sir.
He talks about submandibular region.
Yes, sir.
You reported to me the lobule being raised and it is a parotid swelling
Yes, sir.
with swelling extending down.
Yes, sir.
This ultrasound doesn't say anything about the parotid.
Yes, sir. It just mentions that it is that swelling is probably arising from the parotid.
But why does he talk about submandibular region? He should at least say submandibular and the parotid region, both are
Yes, sir.
involved. Okay. And
Yes, sir.
he should have defined the lymph nodes more, how many, what is the size, what is the nature of that swelling? Is it discrete? Is it discrete?
So I'll tell you, sir, they have wrote that few mildly enlarged left submandibular lymph nodes are seen.
Yeah.
The largest measuring 12 into 8 millimeters.
As a surgeon, what would you like the ultrasonologist to do? Would you be happy with that report, mildly enlarged lymph nodes?
Yes, sir.
Ravi, what would you expect from the ultrasonologist?
I think this is what I expect from ultrasonologists. They won't give you anything definitive.
No. What would you expect from
Yeah,
an
so
ideal
basically,
ultrasonologist?
Ideal ultrasonologist, I would have liked them to, pinpoint the exact region from where the abscess was arising from.
Yeah.
Is there any underlying, as you said, either cystic a swelling or a, comment on the ductal this one dilatation or anything like that.
Okay.
And I would have also wanted to know whether these lymph nodes are matted or
Yes.
if the
Size.
nodes,
Yeah.
size of the node,
Yeah.
and if the loss of central
Correct.
all the
Articulomedullary differentiation
differentiation.
and the nature of the hilum. I think it is important for us to know that. Okay. All
Yes,
right.
sir.
Next one. Go on. But we have to give it to them that the examination may not be, it may not be possible for a thorough examination because of the tenderness and all that. And so you go ahead with a CT. Yeah, go on.
Yes, sir. 1 second. So the CT scan of the neck was done, which
Yeah.
was showing a large collection in the right upper neck behind the angle of the mandible,
Right.
measuring 6 into 6 into 6 centimeters.
Yeah.
Wall of the collection is thin and shows contrast enhancement and partial septations.
Yeah.
Anteriorly, it is abutting the submandibular gland. There
Yeah.
is severe surrounding soft tissue edema and few discrete lymph nodes in the submandibular and upper jugular group of lymph nodes.
Right. So
The left side is not involved. It appears
right.
normal.
Very important. Yeah. Okay. So what is your diagnosis now?
So it's a case of a parotid abscess, sir.
Abscess. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Any other thoughts from the seniors, Shivram?
Cyst getting infected?
Yes, that is a
Yes, sir.
possibility. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anything else? Yeah. So what would you do for this patient?
Sir, I would first like to properly hydrate the patient, sir. I would like to start at adequate high-grade antibiotics. If I'm able to get a pus culture
So I
sensitivity.
keep saying this.
Yes,
Will
sir.
you tell the nurse to give a high-grade antibiotic?
No, sir. No,
So
sir.
you're the surgeon, you're the doctor. You have to tell her what to give, how to give, how much to give, and how long to give.
Sir, so I would start with cephalosporin sulbactam. So
Okay.
I would give it twice a day, and I will continue the antibiotic for at least 2 weeks, sir.
Oral or intravenous?
In intravenous, sir.
Yeah. How
Sorry,
much
sir.
would you give?
Sir, based on his body weight, sir.
No, you told me his body weight.
Yes,
Please
sir.
understand that
100 kgs.
you know the baby is in your lap.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
So you just have to look after the baby. Please make this habit, and as a surgeon, based on the body weight is something you can't say. You have to say, I'll give him this much, and then I'll ask you, how did you decide on that? Then you can say, this is so much from body weight. So you got to tell me a specific dosage for that patient.
So 2 grams, sir.
2 grams what? Yeah. Okay. You have to look it up. All right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Look it up and make this habit of specifically mentioning the molecule, not the trade name, but the chemical name, dosage, route, frequency, and
duration.
Make it
So,
very, very clear.
Saurav, how did you decide on cephalosporin sulbactam? What are the common organisms that cause parotid abscess?
Correct. That's the next question.
So the most common organism is Staph aureus, sir.
Yeah.
And Streptococcus viridans can also occasionally cause parotid abscess, and rarely it can be because of gram-negative aerobes, sir.
Yeah. I'll just come back to that because I was looking at the chat box, and if RT-PCR is positive, will it change the management? Is Nishant's question. Would it do that? Would you do that?
No, sir. The management will, in this case, will be a drainage of the abscess. Otherwise, we will keep on spiking fever, sir. So probably I'll take all the necessary.
I would beg to differ. See, normally a proper treatment for this is incision and drainage.
Yes, sir.
Okay, because it's an abscess, it's incision drainage. But if it's RT-PCR positive, particularly with all the organisms in and around the mouth, okay, and him being COVID positive, the chances of him getting pneumonia after you drain him is very high. So you have an option. Second best, not the best, but second best. What is it?
So ultrasound guided drainage, sir.
Yeah, you can
Pictorial
aspirate.
Insertion. Yes.
You can aspirate even.
Aspirate,
Forget about
sorry.
drain. If it comes back, you can put a pigtail
Yes, sir.
Otherwise, you can aspirate the abscess. Temporizing is important if the patient is COVID positive. Okay. And there's
Yes,
also
sir.
mention about OT preparation, anesthetic and surgical team, PPE and all that. Let us forget that we are in COVID. Okay. Let's have it a virtual meeting and virtual surroundings. So let's
Yes, sir.
not go into the COVID part of it right now. Okay. The other important question, would you like to give metronidazole?
Sir, yes, sir. I would like to
Yes.
keep a cover.
No
of
doubt about it.
gram-negative.
See,
Yes, sir.
please understand that the organism in the abscess can be
Polymicrobial.
multiple, yeah, not mono, it could be polymicrobial, particularly because things from the oral cavity can migrate into the parotid. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I mean, yeah. So that is something which you have to have a cover. If you told me that it is only staphylococcal, I'm not saying it cannot be staphylococcal, but if it is only gram positive, then you can use many other drugs other than a third generation cephalosporin as you have recommended. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
it
sir.
is to cover polymicrobial organism and you have to give anaerobic cover also. Okay. Anything
sir.
else? Any other comments, Shivram?
Yeah, Saurav,
Yes, sir.
what are the, I agree with that if you can't operate, the next best option is ultrasound guided aspiration. What is the limitation of ultrasound guided aspiration?
So it may not be able to fully, completely drain it out, sir.
Correct?
Loculated. Yeah.
If it is multi-loculated, you may not be able to aspirate all the locules. Other thing
Yes,
is
sir.
the pus may be very thick and it may not, you may not be able to aspirate it.
Aspirate. Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay. Shivram, any inputs?
All right, I think, but straight away going to third generation antibiotic, I have some reservation. Probably I'll
Okay, sir.
start coamoxiclav and metronidazole.
Yeah.
Patient is not septic or anything.
Sure.
No, sir.
Yeah.
Sir,
Okay.
I just told that because patient was diabetic. So is it justified if I say a higher generation in a diabetic patient? Sir?
I would agree with that. I mean, even though I also agree with Shivram that my first choice would have been amoxicillin clavulanic acid, which would
Okay,
be
sir.
good enough. But
Okay,
if you say a third generation with metronidazole, I would not disagree with you, or would certainly not fail you. Okay, that's that to me, my mind very clear. Ramakrishna, any comments?
Antibiotic choice, yes, sir. Metronidazole should always be given.
Yeah.
Only thing he didn't mention where he makes incision. and,
That comes, yeah. That's an important consideration.
Yes, sir.
Where would
Sir.
you make the incision if you're operating?
So I would just give a small vertical incision, just mildly anterior to the
Vertical,
clivus, sir.
pochi. That is the word for it. What is pochi? Huh? Pochi in Tamil
he-
language.
He is Bengali, sir. You won't
I know, that's why
Bengali.
that's precisely why I told him that.
I'm not sure, sir.
should come.
Janani will
Gone.
tell you what is pochi, Janani in English.
Gone.
Gone case.
Gone case. You know, the standard answer, it's a very commonly asked question. So please remember, it is not a vertical incision. It is not
Horizontal.
even, it is not even strictly horizontal.
Okay, sir.
Depending on where you put your incision,
Yes,
you
sir.
must know where this facial nerve goes, surface anatomy, the so-called crow's foot. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Where
Okay.
is the zygomatic branch going? Where is the buccal going? Where is the mandibular? You know, those 5 branches you must know, and you must go parallel to that at that particular point, because you don't know where the abscess is. Okay.
Yes.
In the way you have shown in this is probably the buccal branch. So in this
Okay.
case, it will be horizontal, you know, in the same direction that we mentioned, where the surface anatomy of the parotid duct is. Somewhere in that direction you would put this. But if the abscess or the swelling is higher up, okay, then you would put it obliquely, so that you're
Okay, sir.
always parallel to the supposed underlying 7th nerve. Okay.
Okay,
And the
sir.
other thing is, after you cut into the fascia, don't put the knife through and drain
sir.
it, but rather put your artery forceps and
So
spread
if I
it.
have a sinus forceps, sir, I will.
Sinus forceps or artery
Yes, sir.
forceps, and do it
Yes,
that way so that you're not putting your knife deep into the gland. Okay?
Yes,
You
sir.
only
Yes, sir.
use the knife to reach the abscess and nothing deeper than that.
Yes, sir.
Okay? Anything
Sir,
else
sir-
to add, Ravi?
No, sir, I think that's right.
Sir,
Okay.
sir, one question,
If there
sir.
is
Yeah.
any doubt, you can ask the ultrasonologist. If it is deep seated, you can ask the ultrasonologist to point to a point where you can, get at the abscess, and maybe that way you can, use their help if it is possible.
But even they'll not be able to tell you about the path of the seventh. No, that is
Not
the general
you,
guess.
other things what he said is right.
Yeah.
Other things what he said is right. No other question.
Sir, can I come in, sir?
Yeah.
Sir, we were always taught, irrespective of what case for parotid, skin incision should be vertical
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
and then
And
raise
then
the skin
fascia.
flaps.
Yeah.
But when you go
Fascia
to the
should be
level of the
horizontal.
fascia,
Yes,
go
sir.
if for an abscess case, go horizontal so that you don't damage.
Yes, I was about to just say this only, sir.
Yeah, I have not seen this anywhere. I don't know.
Okay, sir.
We have never been. Yeah, you talk about Blair and modified Blair. Please educate me on that.
Blair is just a vertical incision which stops at the angle of the mandible.
Yeah.
Modified Blair goes back. It's the curvy S, lazy S shape.
Curvy, yes, yes, sir.
Yeah.
It will extend up to the upper 1/3 of the sternocleidomastoid.
Yeah. See, my concern with that is that you have to place your incision where the abscess is. So you can't have a standard incision like for a parotidectomy when you're draining the abscess.
Okay,
Is
sir.
that right? Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir. Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
And also the horizontal and little oblique, they will be cosmetically better when they heal.
Correct.
You can get a better, even if you want, you can extend it.
Yeah.
Then vertical extension sometimes becomes difficult.
Yeah.
If
So
it is
if
vertical.
you have an anteriorly placed abscess or an anterior and inferiorly placed abscess, somewhere here, then how do you manage with a vertical incision? So that is a little tricky. That's what I feel. And yeah, I mean, but the important thing is, what do we answer in the exam? We always come to that. And I suppose we'll have to depend on Nishant. Anybody else here who are MS examiners? Puneet has joined. What would you say, Puneet? Where would you
As
put an
Nishant, sir, as Nishant told, it should be what we have read is vertical over the skin, and we reach the fascia, it should be horizontal.
All right.
Then we have read.
Okay. I think
access becomes little more difficult, sir, when you make two different directions.
Yeah.
What is the problem if you put horizontal?
That's right. I always feel cosmetically, if you look at the lines of Langer in the parotid area, I don't think it's vertical.
No, it's
I mean,
not.
I'm subject to correction on that, but I don't think it is.
The only reason is because it gets hid behind that hairline there, in your side locks.
No, but when it is so far posterior, you may not be able to drain the abscess.
No, when you make two different directions, usually the access what you get inside to drain and break open the laculi and all those things, it is more difficult. So you need a longer incision if you make it vertical.
No.
If it is a horizontal one, I think with a smaller incision also you can make adequately big opening inside.
I think we should.
Yes, sir.
Look it up. Please let us not have a final word right now. So please look it up and see whatever the standard recommendation is. Please do that, or you can also ask.
Next class we can ask Dr. Professor Gurushantappa. He may be able to clear this doubt.
Guru Shantappa is Nishant, so we will have to. No, just in good humor. Yes. But we please about the incision, please let us look it up and then take a final call. Okay. But what I have told you is what we have always been doing for many years. We have drained a few parotid abscesses, and we have been taught. And honestly, I can tell you that the cosmetic results are pretty good, whatever it is. Yeah. Okay.
I completely agree.
All right, but that may not be what you say in the exam. Please be very specific. I'm very specific about that. Any other final comments or questions?
Sir,
Most of the time we have drained, putting an incision over the summit of the abscess.
Yes.
Uh,
Correct.
And sometimes, if necessary, you can take ultrasound guided help also.
Yeah.
I think that's much more safer. I think this vertical incision all described when ultrasound was not much of use or direction was not there.
Yeah. Yeah. You see, basically what you're describing is that you should drain it like a parotid resection. Okay, either just a vertical incision or a Lasius extending and then raise the flap, like you're doing a parotidectomy, and then do whatever you want on the fascia, deep fascia. Considered cosmetically better from what you say, but I think it's a very large incision, and as Shivaram said, summit would be a reasonable area to put it in. But please let us all look it up again and see what is the correct answer to be given in the exam. Okay. Ravi, final comments from you and we close.
Sir, one more question.
Okay, go ahead.
In case he develops dribbling of saliva through your incision site and that incision never heals,
yeah,
what will you do next?
Right. Good question.
Yes, sir. So, sir, if it is if he starts saliva comes out from that, so I would want to do a fistulogram, sir, just to make, know the extent whether it is coming from the gland or whether it's coming from somewhere else along the duct. Sir, hello.
Yeah, go on.
Sir, noise is connected. Sir.
Yeah.
So if it is from the substance of the gland, sir, usually we may just do a conservative approach. We may observe for some time, sir.
Mm-hmm.
We can give anticholinergics. We can give that may reduce the secretions to some extent, sir.
Okay.
And
yeah, you see, if this is what Ramakrishna is describing is a parotid fistula.
Yes, sir.
So what is the first thing that you do? What will prevent a fistula from healing? You must understand these principles.
Continuous discharge.
So there is a distal block, sir.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you. So
yes,
what you have to do is do a xylogram, or nowadays you can even do something even better than a xylogram. What can you do?
Xyloscopy.
Xylendoscopy being done in Bangalore by ENT surgeons. Okay. You can get a xylendoscopy and see if there is a blockage. And if it's a small stone or debris that is blocking the passage, during xylendoscopy, they can clear it.
Yes, sir.
Now, if you manage to do that, almost certainly that fistula will heal. If there is no blockage and if the fistula does not heal, the next thing you think of is there an underlying disease? Is there rare diseases like tuberculosis? Is there a possibility of a neoplasm that is preventing the fistula from healing? For that, you repeat your CT in 3 months' time if the fistula does not heal. And if you have an underlying tuberculosis, for example, treat the tuberculosis. If there is an underlying neoplasm, or if these investigations show neither a blockage nor any disease, but the fistula persists, even after 3 to 4 months, do a superficial parotidectomy. Okay, that nothing short of it will close the fistula.
Okay.
All right. Any other comments or critique?
What was done for this patient?
Sorry?
What was done for this patient?
This patient didn't have a, yeah.
So they had just done, sir, the day before yesterday they did the surgery. So they had just done a dissection and drainage of the abscess of the parotid abscess. Incision and drainage.
What incision was put? Who did it?
Sir, ENT surgeon, sir.
Okay.
So he had put a horizontal incision on this, sir.
All right. Okay. Okay.
Saurav?
Yes, sir.
So one question, how do you manage a patient in ICU who is very sick with parotid abscess, which, much of pus, but it's very thick and, both parotids are enlarged and is very tender. How do you manage such a patient?
Sir, appropriate antibiotics. I will give him painkillers, and a Silogog should be added, sir, to probably help drainage of the thick secretion, sir.
Correct. And also encourage oral intake, because as you said, patients who are on prolonged TP and patients who are very ill, who don't eat normally, that is another reason why they develop this. So if the patient is fit enough, you encourage oral intake also. Sialogogues,
Yes,
of course.
Yes, sir.
You've forgotten what I told you just 20 minutes ago. Huh?
Yes, sir.
Appropriate antibiotic. I don't know what an appropriate antibiotic is.
Sorry, sir. Sorry,
I
sir.
don't know what a sialogogue is. So
Sir,
you have to, no, I'm just joking.
Yes, sir.
Next time, all of
Yes,
you
sir.
youngsters, remember, specifically mention what you give, chemical name, route, quantity, duration. Don't
Okay,
forget
sir.
that.
Sorry, sir. Yes, I'll remember.
All right. Final comments from Ravi, and any other questions? Sorry.
Ajit here, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, ultrasound guided drainage, will it lead to fistula, like on downside of it?
Yes, sir.
Why would it lead to a fistula?
If
I think it's more ultrasound guided aspiration rather than drainage.
Yeah, but even otherwise, why?
Yeah.
Fistula does not occur whether you do it with or without ultrasound drainage or whatever. But if it does occur, then as I told you, you have to rule out a distal block and other things that I mentioned. I won't repeat it.
Okay.
Nishant has a question about intraoral drainage.
That was Ajit's question itself.
Ajit's question. Sorry. Okay. Yeah.
Abdul sir question, not
risky, sir.
Yeah, intraoral
Yeah,
is
sure,
something, particularly, it's in, if you have a deep lobe, it will be a hypopharynx or the tonsillar fossa, just in front of the pillar of the tonsil. So yeah, if there's nothing on the outside, and it's a very rare occurrence, I have never seen it, everything is on the inside, you can perhaps do an intraoral drainage. Okay.
Sir, but then won't we risk the spread of pus in the parapharyngeal space, sir?
No, not necessarily.
No,
It's all, see, when there is infection in that area, everything is stuck.
Okay, sir.
So the deep lobe will be stuck to the pharynx.
Okay.
And so you won't open up that space. We just have to drain it inside. But as I said, it's purely theoretical. It's not often that you get it. Parotid abscesses will occur only, most of the time on the outside.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Final comments from Ravi and we close.
Thank you, sir.
I think Saurav presented it well. Most points were covered. And I think as Dr. Lakshman has pointed out, you have to take into cognizance in terms of the treatment, you should be more specific and, point out antibiotic dose, and all the treatment should be in generic terms rather than in trade names. I think otherwise you've done very well. Srikanth, anything to add?
Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Srikanth. Unmute, please.
Unmute, Srikanth.
Nothing bad, but when there is specific, that's why you want to do differential diagnosis. That was one point I wanted to tell him.
Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. Sorry.
Otherwise, it was good.
Okay. Puneet, any comments? Can't hear you, Puneet.
Regarding that incision, yes, sir. As you told, horizontal is cosmetically always better in this parotid abscess.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Hello.
Yeah. No,
last one point, sir.
Please do.
Still one unresolved problem is, what is the reason for his chronicity, which was there for 1 year?
Yeah.
I think you have to follow up this patient after the abscess incision has healed.
Yes.
You have to repeat the investigation, find out why he had that 1 year straight.
Yeah.
Totally agree with that.
It is really not yet solved.
Yeah.
See whether the swelling is completely resolved after the AND.
Unlikely, sir, because it is there for 1 year means that part will remain. Whatever increased recently, that will resolve. But what was there for 1 year, that cannot resolve. With this incision drainage, we cannot expect it to heal.
Unless it resists, which will also go away after this. Yeah. It's point well taken. I think this patient has to be followed up. Okay. All right. Thank you. Well done, Saurav. And thank you for a very healthy discussion. I think we should have these case discussions more often.
More often, yeah.
All right.
Tomorrow, Surgical Society meeting, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right.
What
Sir,
time,
there is
Same
a
time.
class on UK training also, sir. ASI.
9 o'clock. Correct.
Yes, as
Correct.
well as surgical society meeting. Both are there.
Yeah. Please join at 5 o'clock.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Good night,
Good night.
everybody. I'll close
Good
the
night.
meeting.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah.